Welcome to Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding live stream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. I'm your host, Stephen Shaw, but you may know me as @Shashaw.
And I'm your host, David Khourshid, also known as @DavidKPiano, and I'm joined today by a whole bunch of Orlando CodePenners.
Hello, our very own live studio audience. It's great.
Yes, we're going to explain to them. Actually, I'm going to keep the camera on them. And we're going to quickly explain what this is all about to them.
That's right. Well, together we are coding compadres, animation amigos, Boolean buddies, and keyframe companions, and all of you are a part of that now. Welcome.
Yes. And so what Keyframers is about is we're basically going to be creating an animation from scratch live using HTML, CSS, and a little bit of JavaScript, and we're going to be doing it all in CodePen using CodePen collab mode. We do this every week, and so if you go to twitch.tv/keyframers, you could actually see us live right now. So this is pretty much everyone. There's a little bit of a delay, but you're all there, I promise.
Yes. So glad to have you joining us. And we do the show every week, and it's made possible by your support. You can pledge at patreon.com/keyframers, or like and subscribe us around YouTube and Twitch and all of that. There's also links available below the videos, so check those out.
Yeah, so this is also going to be an audience participation for both everyone in the Twitch stream, everyone watching on YouTube, because we put it on YouTube later, or actually right after the Twitch stream is done, and everyone in the audience today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. I want this to be a very interactive thing. And I also have an exclusive. Those of you who are new here, who's new here, by the way? All right, so we have about half the people new here. For the people who've been here before, you might have seen this. It's an exclusive CodePen water bottle, and so I'm going to be giving this away to one lucky person today, and I guess we'll have some sort of makeup challenge during the show. It'll be fun.
Fancy. I dig it. All right. So yeah, we're gonna create an animation here in CodePen collab mode. Would you like to get into it here, David?
Yeah, sure.
There we go.
Wait, do what now?
Yeah, are you ready for this?
Yes.
All right. So today's animation is Gallery Interaction by Peter Knoll, and there's a lot of really cool elements happening here. There's a nice hover interaction. There's a beautiful grid layout and lovely photos, and then a nice little flipping transition that we'll go into.
Yeah, so this is the example animation we're going to make today. A lot of really nice details, and you might notice some things if you've watched Keyframers before on just some of the animations that we've done before, where you click something, gets bigger, and then it goes smaller. So whether you're new to animation in CSS, HTML, and JavaScript, or you're experienced, hopefully we will have a few things for you to learn here today. So it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, well, let's get into the code.
All right, let's do this. So we start over here in CodePen. How many of you are new to CodePen? You've never used CodePen before. All right, I really encourage you to make an account. In fact, this entire thing is sponsored by CodePen, I should say, first of all. They're gracious enough to sponsor the pizza that you all apparently destroyed today. Well, the lack of drinks. Sorry, I didn't get drinks. But there is water over there. And also, CodePen is just a really great place for you to instantly get started with front-end development. You have your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript panels right here, and so you could just fill everything out and just make experiments. And so we have a lot of really cool ones on the Keyframers CodePen, as well as our own. Mine is @DavidKPiano. Stephen's is @SHShaw, SHSHAW. And there's a really cool feature here called collab mode, where right now you see Stephen is coding something right now. And so our goal is to get this animation, which was not made in HTML, CSS, or JavaScript. We're going to try to do this using code. So he's getting started right now, and we have a whole bunch of images. And so I'm going to start using my favorite CSS resets, I guess. It's just, I guess, habit. But first of all, you know what? I'll be nice and start with HTML, body, and I'm going to give it a height of 100%, width 100%, no margin, no padding. And that's because the browser, by default, it includes this like padding and margin, and it doesn't do full 100% height or width. And so this makes, this just makes demos easier to work with. And I'm also going to do something controversial, which I do in every episode, is first we make everything box size in border box. And this is because the default is content box, and that sort of sizes your elements in ways that you might not expect.
Nobody wants that.
Yeah, and so border box just makes it more predictable. And so we're also going to use position relative, and yeah, we'll leave it at that. And we're not adding any JavaScript yet. So right now we're just working on the structure.
That's right.
And so let's see. For this one, how many of you are familiar with CSS Grid now? Okay, so actually that's most of you. Do they teach it at the boot camp or wherever y'all? I mean, that's great. That's really great that you all know CSS Grid. But if you don't, one of my favorite resources that I keep going back to is learnCSSGrid.com. And I'm also going to put this in the Twitch channel right there. So and by the way, yeah, if you're following, you could see over here. So Stephen added, actually I call him Shaw. I'm just going to call him Shaw. Shaw added CSS Grid so far to the gallery. And so, actually, this is the wrong CodePen. There we go. He added CSS Grid to the gallery, and so we have all of these nicely, in each of those columns. And so we just have 3 columns right now, and a pretty huge. Is that column gap natural?
So part of the issue right here is figure has margin by default, so we need to remove that on our gallery images, and that helps quite a bit. And then image we'll set to object fit cover with 100%, height 100%, and that should make all of our images fit into the grid. We'll also want them to be display block, because we don't want that gross little white space there. Did you see that?
Yeah, so why does that white space happen?
So images by default are inline block, which means they slightly adhere to the text settings. So line height in particular is problematic with image, SVG, canvas, all those. So you usually want to set those to display block if you're gonna have them in grid or flexbox kind of setup. And that'll remove that white space.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So we have the first part in which I wrote almost no code. So thank you, Shaw. But the way we plan this out is we think about how our app is going to change in states. And so when we're designing just static designs like we have right here, it's easy enough to say, like, okay, we're going to add a CSS grid and we're going to put things and align them according to the grid. We might have a header, we might have this layout, but you also have to stop and think, how is this going to change over time? And how is this going to change based on what the user does? So if we look back at the example animation, you'll see that there's really 2 states we have to consider. Well, there's more, but in terms of the gallery animation, there's 2 states. The first one is gallery view, and the second one is this view where the image is expanded, right? And then we could go back, well, this just fades to black, but we could go back from the expanded image view back to the gallery view. And so that's what we're going to tackle. And so, so I'll start doing that.
Yeah. So what approach are you going to take here, David?
For the image transition?
Yeah.
All right. So in the HTML, we have a gallery div. So you can see how the app is structured over here. We have a gallery, and then each of these galleries has a figure, and each of these figures has an image and a thick caption. I don't know what that's. Oh yeah,
yeah, for the title overlay. Sorry,
for the text when you hover over the text.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking that in addition to gallery, we're also going to add. We're going to add like a detail view. So I could just, in CodePen, since CodePen has emit by default, you could just type dots detail, press tab, and you get div.detail. So it works out pretty well. And let's see, what we could do, just thinking through this right now, is, let's see, how about whenever we click a figure, this is like sort of rubber ducky coding. If we click a figure, then we go in the figure, we look for the image inside, we get the source, and then we copy that source over to whatever image is inside of detail. So whatever image.
How would you feel about just cloning the entire figure so that the fig caption and everything would come through?
That works too. How do you do that?
So let's say I'm in the JavaScript a little bit now, if you're showing that. So what we would do is, let's see, const L figures. Is that our naming convention there?
Select yes. So L just stands for elements.
Gallery image. Let's say.
Okay.
L images. Do that, and then we'll do an array from these.
Yeah. And by the way, so the reason you want to use array from over here is because this query selector all, it returns what's called a node list, which is iterable, which means you could do .for each and go through it, but it's not exactly an array. So we can't do exactly everything an array can do. But because it's iterable or array-like, like it's a collection of items, we could pass it to array.from, and it creates an array for us. And so that's just a really easy way to do that. So, anyone have any questions so far? No? Okay. Very good.
All right. So my plan here is just adding an event listener for click. And then what we'll do on that is const clone equals image.clone node. And
that's a native API, right?
Yes. That's just built into JavaScript wherever you might be using JavaScript. I believe clone node is the right name. We'll find out shortly enough.
Clone node, and you could specify if it's deep or not too. So you could pass true to clone node, and that will clone the entire node. That's actually pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, we're not using any frameworks or anything here. We want to show you how to do this with just raw JavaScript, or vanilla JavaScript, I guess you would call it. So.
And let me be a little clearer here with figure and figure. Figure.
Yeah.
And then let's do this in our CSS real quick, where we do detail.
Yeah. You can see when I click a figure, it logs over here, just to show you how we attach those event listeners onto there. Now, some of you might have used jQuery. You could use jQuery to do the same thing, but we're better than that. I'm kidding. If you're using jQuery, that's fine.
All right, and then let's do that.
But all right, so when we click a figure, we also have to empty out LDetail too, right?
Yes.
So
yeah, what's your approach there? Yeah. That always works.
Yeah. So obviously, if you're using React or Vue or Angular, there's much more idiomatic approaches to this. But basically, we're taking that detail div and we're removing whatever's in it. and we're adding a clone of whatever we click. So I think that'll work, right? So if we, well, is it supposed to work yet? Where's our figure?
Right now, let's see. Let's simplify this a bit. We're gonna do detail. We're actually gonna do it smaller. Height 50%, and what we'll do is attach that to the right bottom, and then let's add a box shadow around it. Just for fun, so you can see that. Is that working?
Well, I'm clicking stuff and nothing is exactly working just yet.
Okay, are you getting anything in the log there? Yes, we are getting logged. LDetail append child. Let's make sure we're not getting any errors here. Okay.
Nope. Let's check. So you could also open the DevTools while you're in CodePen and see if there's any errors, but because we're professional coders, there are no errors.
Exactly.
We make errors all the time, actually. So.
Okay, so we are getting a clone, and let's see. We do have detail, and we are getting, okay, so what we need to do is with clone node, we actually need to make that a deep clone, right? To get the children and everything else.
All right, that worked.
Yes, okay. So now when we click, you can see.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I used clone node in the past, but I completely forgot about it, so that's actually a really cool trick.
Not half bad. Not half bad there.
Yeah. Not really an encouraged trick, but just one that really works well for our demo today.
Yeah. But we don't really want this picture-in-picture kind of effect, do we?
No. I mean, yeah, it is cool. It's like, it gives you a little preview of the image.
All right, so what we can do is lapp.dataset.state equals detail.
Oh, yes.
At this point, and then what we'll add is ldetail.add event listener click. This is just quick and dirty state changing by modifying a data attribute. We'll show that a little bit more clearly. Dataset.state equals gallery. And then
yeah, and so I add gallery as a default up top.
Yes,
so
great.
Just to explain what we did real quick, in the app we added a data state attribute, and so this works just like your class names, except it's much more isolated to whatever your data attribute is. So we could say if the state is gallery, and we could do that in CSS just like that, where we have this data attribute selector. We could change the view based on what the state is. And so we're saying if the state is detail, then we want to show that fixed image detail. And that happens whenever you click one of the figures. So if I click here, then that's going to show. And so if I click that again, the state's going to change to gallery over here. And so it's going to go back. And so this actually works out pretty well. I mean, we don't have our smooth animation yet, but we will get there.
I think we're good. Thank you all for attending. Have a great time.
No, definitely not there yet.
No, not yet. All right. Fine. Okay, so I'm just adding a little bit of styles. Oh, did you break something? Yes, you did.
Did you break something? Yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry. I did a... CodePen has this tidy.js feature, and so I just like using it because, sometimes I miss prettier.
Yeah, we all do. Okay, so that's working decently.
Yeah, and so now it gets to the exciting part. And so I pulled up one of the previous animations that we did for CodePen, or for keyframers, and I'll put it in the Twitch chat over here. if you're watching. And so this is called, what's it called? It's called Migrating Magna Saxa. And Magna Saxa is the name of this mountain. And so this was an animation also based on the dribble. And the idea was if you click on one of these, it would zoom in, and then it would zoom out when you clicked it again. And so it doesn't matter where in the page it was. So you see I scrolled a little bit. It showed it, just depending on where its position is. But here's the trick. This is actually two separate elements. We have this one over here, and then we have this one. And so we created an illusion where this big one pretends to be the smaller one, and then it sort of goes from the first position to its final resting position. And we have a few tricks to do that. And that trick is actually called the flip technique. So if I look at the flip technique,
and we've talked about this quite a bit in our episodes. You can check out a lot of them where we do this.
Yeah. So let me go back to here, and so I'll just get started with how we could do the flip technique. So there's a few steps involved. So the first one, let's see. I guess figure. Are we going to get the dimensions of the figure or the actual image? Are they going to be the same size?
We'll need the actual image to check that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So here's a cool trick that might not know. If you go to const L image equals, you could do figure dot query selector image. And so query selector and query selector all, as you're used to, doesn't just work on the document. It works on any element inside, I believe, right? Yeah, it should. And so you could find that image. And so let's console.log L image and see what we have over there. So basically, if we click, yep, we see that image over there. So that's good. Now we could get the dimensions of the rectangle of the image, which is get bounding clients rect. I think it's just rect. I should know this. So const rect, or let's call it first rect, equals LImage.get bounding client rect. It's a very long long method, but this is going to give you the top, bottom, left, right, X and Y positions, or it's going to give you the width, it's going to give you the height, it's going to give you everything that we need in order to create that illusion of that image moving from its smaller state to its larger state. And so let me just show you what that looks like. Console.log first rect. So basically, did you break something?
I'm breaking a few things. Give me.
All right, cool, good.
All right, should be clear now.
Okay, except my code's broken now.
Cool.
Well, hold on. All right, so did the click? All right, let me reload real quick. For whatever reason, my click handler's not showing.
Okay, let me make sure that.
Oh yeah. Pointer events.
Yeah.
This is a common thing that happens. Like if you're coding and one thing ends up in the top of another thing, and you're wondering like, why don't any of my click events happen? It's probably there, but because the thing in the front is invisible, that's capturing all of the click events. So you want to just make sure you're not. All right, so over here, whenever we click one of these images and you go to the console, you see that we have all of this awesome information about the image that we're querying. So that's, again, you get the element, and then you call get bounding clients rect, and it's going to have all that information for you. All right, so when we do the transition, that's this L clone. And we append it to L detail, and Shaw already got L clone image. const last rect equals L clone image. So this is the next image from after we transition. L clone image dot get bounding clients rect, and then we const.log last rect. Are you putting all that inside request animation frame?
Yes.
All right. Cool.
Oh yeah, that'll go up there
Okay.
too.
Yeah. I mean, close enough. It's tab there. All right. So now when I open up the console, you're going to see that when we click one of these, are we logging the first one? No, we're not. So I'm going to do console.log first, and then first rect, and then we're going to log the last one. So last rect. And so you'll sort of see where we're going with this. For example, if I click this middle one, now we have two rectangles. So we have the first one where, for example, this one is 318 pixels from the left, whichever direction it is. And then the last one is only 95 pixels from the left. So what could we use to smoothly animate the first one to the last one? Anyone know? Translate, yes. So we don't animate with left, don't animate with top or width or height or anything, but we're going to use translate. But we have to do a little bit of math to figure out how far we have to move those, to the correct position. So we have our first, we have our last, and then we need to do some animation. I think, did we tackle this with CSS variables last time?
I don't recall. Probably.
Oh yeah, no, just straight up put it in the style. You know what? Just for now, we're gonna do. Let's do just a web animations API type of thing. It's gonna be the easiest way to do it, I think. All right, so you see over here we have now we have to get our inverted information, and so this is our deltas. So the delta x is how much it moved to the left. Delta y is how much it moved from the top. The delta width, since we're calculating like the percentage or the ratio that it changed in width, we calculate like how much it changed in size. And then the height, same thing. We just divide the first rectangle's height by the last rectangle's height. So for example, if this was 300 pixels away, and when you click it, now it's 90 pixels away, then this delta x is going to be 300 minus 90, which is, well, it's 210. Wow, my math is low today. But so what that means is that right now we're immediately going to this last position, but our goal is to get this image to move from the last position and pretend that it's in the first position. And to do that, we could use that delta x number, and we could move that 210 pixels to the right. And so that's what we're going to do. And we're going to do the same for the delta y, and also the delta width and delta height. So I'm trying to remember our, animate. Okay, perfect. So yeah, let's do one at a time. So let's see. L clone image dot animate. And so let's see. Animate is really cool. It's a native API called the Web Animations API, supported in Firefox, Chrome, as well as Safari, I believe, right now. Or at least I hope so. Hopefully they made a mention at WWDC today. I don't know. But what you give it is you give it a bunch of, you give it an array of like properties to animate to, and then you could specify some optional timing information as a second argument. So we're gonna just take a cue from this and start animating it. And so it's going to be transform, let's see. Yeah, we have to translate X, and we have to translate that delta X. So that's gonna be delta X pixels, and then in our last keyframe, transform, we just give it none. And so we're going to do that over a duration of 300. And that's 300 milliseconds, so milliseconds. So, all right, let's see what happens there. Okay, so we have our X animation, which is good. So now let's keep going. We have to do our Y animation as well. Translate Y, delta Y pixels, just the same way. And so now, if I click, okay. So it's a little awkward right now, but in a good way. Like right now, we're getting the position correct. And remember, this is two completely different elements. We're not changing the first element, and this makes the illusion a little bit more clear because we're not editing the width or height yet. But so to do that, we have to, all right, so we have these images. Do we have styling on the image inside of the detail?
Just a little bit, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Or actually, no, we don't.
Oh, no, yeah, the image itself doesn't.
And there's unless it's, all right, so gallery image. Let's take a look at the HTML. So we have detail. Oh, okay, so detail, and then, all right, so we actually don't need this because what we do is we clone the figure and we put it inside the detail. Mm-hmm. So detail, figure, and I'm just going to apply this to all the images. Transform origin, top left. And you're going to see why we're doing transform origin top left. So I'm actually going to comment it out right now just to show you the difference. But we have translate X, we have translate Y, and now what do we use for width and height? Anyone? Scale. Cool.
Units. Oh.
I don't know who said it, so I can't. But we'll, someone will win this. And so we could, like, for example, we could scale X, delta width, and since it's unit list, we could just add that in there like that. And then scale Y, delta H for delta height. So let's see what happens when we do that. Let's just concentrate quick. Okay, it's now it's like it's coming in from a really random, weird area, and that's not exactly what we want. And that one just looks weird. Like if you do images that are wider than they are, then it just
I'm working on that. That should be a little more natural.
No problem. Shaw working in the background. All right, so that's one of the reasons why we want to use transform origin. We want to start from the top left, because when you start from the top left, I'm trying to visualize this, when you move the image and you translate it X and Y, you're also making sure that the width and height start from that origin point. And that's a lot more predictable than the default, which is starting at the center. When you start at the center, the width and height go like that. And you don't want that. You want it to be predictable and from like from one area, which is the point that you're moving it. So I'm going to go back into CSS and I'm going to uncomment this line where we're doing transform origin top left. Whoa. Don't
worry about it.
Oh, okay. This will be fun. Hey, I mean, I can still do it. I can still hit the things. But now it's a lot more predictable, except they're all in one line, which is cool. But
yeah, working on it.
All right. In the meantime, we could also specify the easing over here, and I'm going to use my favorite easing, which is cubic Bezier 0.5, 0.51. And something we talk about in the episodes is that when you're trying to figure out what numbers to put in for cubic Bezier, number one, there's a whole lot of useful websites like cubicbezier.com, which was made by Leah Veru, and it's a very visual way of representing what these numbers actually mean. So the first two numbers refer to the first, the first two, or the first point over here in the curve. See, just like that. So if I move more to the right, you see that the first value, which is the first X value, gets larger. If I move up to the top, you see that the second value gets larger. And so same thing with the next two values, the third and fourth values. If I move more to the left, that first value changes. And if I move up and down, then that last value changes. Now, here's the thing. When you're doing animations, just like real life movement, things don't start at a speed. They start from zero. Like when you start your car, it starts at 0 miles per hour, 0 kilometers per hour if you're anywhere but the United States. So when you start at zero, you smoothly accelerate. And so that's why I like to have my y at 0. You might see other cubic Beziers where the y is at some random value. It does not make sense. And so same thing when the animation stops. Most of the time, your second value over here would be 1. And the reason why is because it comes to a nice smooth stop. Now, granted, sometimes if you want to do an animation where something is like just flying off the page or disappearing or out of view, then you might want y somewhere else. But for something where you visually want to see it come to a nice smooth stop, second value 0, and the second value of the next point is 1. So I like using 0 and 1. And when we do 0.5, here, I'll just estimate it here. But basically, this 0.5, 1, then you see you have a really nice smooth curve where you're starting from 0 and you're ending at 0. It accelerates and then it smoothly decelerates. And I'll show you the difference over here. So if we go back to our pen, we have 0.5, 0, 0.51. Now you have that really nice smooth. Shaw, the click handlers. Oh, there we go. I was going to whine at you, but there you go.
I'm just breaking things, don't worry.
Yeah, so you see it's a much more smooth motion. And if you keep those two values, the second and fourth values at 0 and 1, you can play around with these values, like do .2, and you have it's like a different attitude in your animation. I don't know if that's the right term for it, but or this one where it'll feel more aggressive and then just like back down, like 0.10, 0.11. But I like 0.50, 0.51. So any questions on that so far? No? Good. All right, so how did you fix the image warping issue, by the way?
So that's still a work in progress.
Okay.
But basically, I'm using a CSS Masonry layout, so that that the images are a little more in the proper place. So I've got the link right here. I'm sharing in the chat. This is a really neat approach by Tobias, and the Masonry kind of Pinterest layout that we're used to seeing is actually very difficult to get going whenever you're with just CSS, and a lot of that has to do with the variable heights and the way that columns work and all that, and grid works. So one of the ways that is faked or accomplished really is with Flexbox, but set to the column layout. So it's actually stacking the items vertically, and whenever it runs out of space, it moves over to the next column, which works really well, but that tends to get items out of order. So let me show the article here so you can see it a little bit, at least on the live stream. So that's actually fixed by using order for the children. You've got nth child order, and the order property in Flexbox and Grid actually rearranges items based on that order value. So for nth child, 3n plus 1, which equals the first item for every 3. It's set to order 1. That means it populates that first column. 3n plus 2 is the second item for every 3, is order 2, and 3n, which just means every third item, is order 3. So they should be populating into 3 columns like that. We're getting some overflow issues, and that's there's a lot of reasons for that, but the problem with this masonry kind of layout is it has to have a fixed height, and since we have kind of random images populating in here, that doesn't work super great.
Yeah. I mean, it still works pretty well.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah, for the most part. All right, so with regard to the flip animation where the items are coming, in, we also have one final step, and that's handling what happens when we actually click an image and it goes back to the gallery. Because even though it doesn't show it in the original animation, we want to smoothly animate back to its resting spot. And so we're going to use the exact same technique over there, which is going to involve a lot of copying and pasting, but that's totally fine.
You're talking about doing the flip transition back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless we don't want to do that.
Well, no. So what I was going to do is create a function here, flip images with first and last.
There we go.
And then we'll
There.
we'll kind of move this code in there. So let me copy all of this.
All right. So just reusing code, and yeah.
And we'll fix that in a moment. Let's see.
So let's call this first L and last L, just to make things a little bit clear. So basically what we're saying is this is a reusable pattern, and so we could change this to first L. I'll go ahead and do that. Wait, how are we going to do the...
So we'll need to also pass in some kind of change callback.
Okay, yeah. So change.
But so let's see. So first rect, first L, we're getting that. This will happen in the other function.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'll happen there, and then. So what we'll do here is do our flip image call with, what is it? L image, and then L clone image.
Are you editing the same JavaScript that I'm editing?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm around line 60.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you know what, let me just reload and make sure that we're not, because I'm sort of doing the same thing. We have last L. At least our changes are going to be the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
In theory. Okay. And then so we'll move that into change.
Mm-hmm. That looks about right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we're doing the exact same thing. We have the first rectangle, last rectangle, and we're animating between those two. And so let's just let's make sure it works. Does it still work?
Not working for me. Let's see. Flip image is not defined. Might have flip images. So I just typoed because that's 90% of programming.
TypeScript is cool.
Hey, look at that.
It still works. Awesome. So yeah, all we did, we took that code that we had inside of our function. Or wait, no, it's... Oh yeah, we're good. So we really simplified that. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Now we could just use that same code over there, where LImage is going to be...
That's a little trickier because we're going to have to...
L detail.query selector image, right?
Actually, so what we can do here, let's simplify even further. Let's move this L detail event listener into here. Because we already have those selectors happening, and we'll just kind of onceify that, if you know what I mean.
Okay, that makes sense.
This will become a function. Let's say.
Yeah, we have to move it out so we could
function.
We could clean up that event listener.
Revert, and then do
Yeah,
that.
I want that.
And then add event listener, revert. Whoa. Hey, there we go. And then we'll do ldetail.remove event listener. Click revert.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So again, what's going to happen is when we click the detail image, we're going to do the same flip animation, but after we're done flipping it back, we have to remove that dynamically created event listener, which right now it's not working though. So.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Maybe it's because, you know what? I think, oh, nope, something's happening.
So this needs to be gallery right here.
Ah, you're right. Okay, so we're saying.
Yeah.
Aha!
There we go.
Nice. Okay, that is really cool. And so we have some Z index issues, but that's
well,
okay.
so what? Yeah, that's.
No. Here we go. I can fix it.
I'm trusting you.
Oh, okay. Like the Z index issue, right? We're talking about the same thing?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so, and this is also why I really love data selectors, is that we could go to the, well, it's going to be the last L, and so we could just say last rect, last L. Just for now, just do last L dot dataset dot active equals what? True? I don't know. I don't care. So that's going to be literally the string. Oh, flipping is true. And so I'll explain what flipping means in a bit. So when we go to our gallery image again, actually, no, that won't really help with the Z index because we have to go to the parent. Thankfully, there's parent element. I think it's a function. I'm not sure.
Parent node. Parent
or
node is what
function.
you're looking for, I believe.
Yeah. Okay, so
Or
dataset
parent element
true.
actually will work.
Yeah. So what that's going to do is when we go back to the when we see the elements wherever they are, we'll see that when we click and go back, where is it? That the we have that data flipping right over there. And yeah, so over here, in order to get rid of that, we have to delete the dataset.flipping. But anyway, so actually, do we want to do that?
Well, that has to happen after the animation.
Oh, otherwise it'll be Z index 1 forever. Whoa,
Yeah.
what's happening?
What do you mean? What's happening?
All right, so figure. Let's see. Gallery image. Is gallery image to the figure? Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Okay, so
it pulls double duty there.
Okay. Z index. We're just going to give it 1. By default, everything is 0. So, oh wait, that's not working as I expected.
Where are you?
Where am I? That's a really good question.
Don't mean to get all existential.
I'm in the I'm in the JavaScript right now.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so I'm just going to add an onFinish listener here, and then last L dot parent element. We're going to delete it over there. See if that works. If it doesn't, then we can just revert all of this. Okay, let's see if this works. We're good. You see how everything's on top? Everything works. All right. I think we're good.
Cool. Yeah, that's feeling very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And now you know how to flip.
Does anyone have any questions on what we did, or are you all just completely lost? That's okay, because this is recorded. You could go back to it, and we're also sharing the code for this as well. So.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we'll summarize a little bit now that we've ironed out the issues. We'll go over it a little bit. There's one more little piece of it I wanted to do before we start to wrap it up here. So one of the cool parts of this gallery animation is the way that it kind of highlights what you're hovering on, and this is actually very simple to do with CSS and nothing else. So let's go back to our gallery here. And so what we want to do, we'll go ahead and just add it to the end here so that this will be easier to process. So gallery, hover. We want to set all of the gallery images to opacity 0.5, let's say. And let's make sure our gallery has a background that's black. Yeah, sure. You can do that too.
Oh, okay. I made the entire body black.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So what that's going to do is fade everything out, which isn't really great. But what we can do is override the gallery image that you're hovering with opacity 1.
Cool. Yep, I see that that's working. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it's not smooth. We need to make it smooth.
Well, there's a few ways we can do that. The first is JavaScript. You'll want to include a library, npm install, no, just kidding. We can just do this with transition, opacity, something like 0.3 seconds. And I always like to do a linear transition for opacity. A lot of times when you get into like the stronger easings with something like opacity, it can look a little funky. So I like to just do it linear. And then now you can see whenever you're hovering over, you get that nice fade out. You can probably make that a little bit longer. And then what we can also do is the image that you're hovering, you can transition duration 0.3 seconds or something like that to make that happen a lot faster for the one that you're actually hovering, and then all the others will fade a little bit slower.
Mm-hmm. It's a really nice effect.
It is, and it's so simple. That's just like 6 lines of CSS, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I trust you.
Awesome. All right.
Nice.
Well, I think that's a good place for us to enter into Keyflections. What do you think, David?
I think that sounds great. So we're going to basically do an overview of everything that we learned today.
That's right. So now we are moving into Keyflections. It's a quick review of the techniques used to build this animation. If you have any questions, raise your hand for David or shout out and ask us in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer.
Yeah. Okay, my script. Oh yeah, if you've enjoyed watching us so far, then you can follow and subscribe. All of you over here, you're watching live, but we are on Twitch, twitch.tv/keyframers. We're also on YouTube at the Keyframers. And if you even go to keyframe.rs, pretty cool domain name, we have all of our links over there. So please follow us.
That's right. All right, so today's animation, again, is Gallery Interaction by Peter Knoll. There's a lot of cool things happening here. The primary focus of this is this kind of image transition and the gallery effect. And the way we have put this all together is with a little bit of HTML, a little bit of CSS, and a little bit of JavaScript. So starting out, just going over the HTML super quick, we've got our app container with a data state attribute that we'll go over in a bit. We have our gallery with all of our gallery images contained within there. They're each a figure with an image inside of it. And then our class equals detail down here. And that's going to be our overlay. Should we let's see. Real quick, the gallery layout is accomplished with the CSS Masonry technique by Tobias. I've got the link here in the code. That was also shared in the chat. The main downside here is it needs a fixed height, which doesn't always work, but it's accomplished with Flexbox in a column layout, and that means they just stack vertically until they run out of space, and then it moves over to the next column. And then with a little bit of nth child trickery, that's kind of the great part of this technique. They are laid out in order, and then some pseudo elements help break that content up. So that's the most interesting part of the CSS, other than our little hover effect, which is basically just accomplished by when the entire gallery is being hovered, the images are opacity 0.3, except for the one that you're hovering. That one's overwritten with opacity 1 and a little bit faster of a transition so that it comes in a lot sooner.
Right.
All right.
So, flip?
Yep.
All right, so the flip technique. If you're wondering what flip stands for, by the way, anyone who even bothered to look it up, what does flip stand for? Anyone? Japan?
For a water bottle?
You already have a water bottle. But awesome, that's right. It's first, last, invert, play. And so what that means is when we go from one image to the other, like we're doing over here in this clip images function, we get the first rectangle, which is going to give us all of our left, top, width, height, position data. And then when our transition happens, we have a last rectangle. This could be the same element, it could be a different element, but the main point is that this last rectangle is going to have different dimensions than the first rectangle. And so we want to find out how far we need to travel to, like lengthwise, height-wise, width-wise, well, just basically up, down, left, right, and width and height. And so we could use these values inside of our final elements, and using translate, and we could actually simplify this a bit, but we won't do it right now. We could move the last element so that it appears like it's in the original position. That's the inverts part. So we're inverting it so it looks like it didn't move yet, and then we play. And so play just means everything goes to 0. So the element that's pretending to be in the first position just returns to its normal position. And so that's that smooth, that smooth going from first to last position that you see. And so we do that using the Web Animations API, which again works with Chrome, Firefox, and I believe Safari, where we translate it. Yeah, we transform it to its first position, and then we transform it to its last position using simply transform none. And so we add our duration, easing, and we're good to go. So yeah, and that's all there is to it.
And a few quick things on the transition itself. So each figure, whenever it's clicked, we grab the image of that, we clone that, and then drop it in that detail element that we did before, and get that cloned image. And then we run our flip images function. And then one of the ways we actually cause that detail box to show up is by changing the data attribute of the state. So up here, our default state is data state gallery, and then we toggle that here over to detail. And whenever data state is equal to detail, our detail element fades in with opacity 1 and the pointer events from there, and that gives us that nice fade in effect as the image is transitioning in and out. So you get really nice looking. transition there. And then we also have a revert function that's registered within this click event, so that we can kind of reverse what we already did without a whole lot of trickery with like querying elements and all of that. So we're just flipping the images back from clone to the first image, and then we reset our data state back to gallery, and then take away that event listener so that it doesn't trigger again.
Yeah.
And that's basically it. Now you can flip all you want.
Yeah. Flip out everywhere.
Yes. Any questions before we wrap it up?
See any questions in the chat? Someone says pretty snazzy. Someone
Yes.
said gas. Oh wait, no, GSAP.
GSAP.
Not gas. All right. Any questions? No, really? Okay.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up here. You've been watching and attending. Thank you. Keyframers, if you've enjoyed watching us and would like to see more from David and I, you can check us out at youtube.com/keyframers. You can also pledge to support us at patreon.com/keyframers, and that helps us out a ton. And we also would love for you to participate with us in the live streams every week, usually Mondays at what time? Your time, David? 5?
Oh, we're having issues with the sound.
Hey. So yeah, but normally 5 p.m. Central Standard, and you can convert that to whatever time zone everybody else is in. That's on you, David.
Hey, yeah, my sound's not working.
Oh, cool.
But I hear you now.
Yeah, you can close us out here.
All right. So we are all done with the stream.
And we lost David. Great. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining us. If you would like to give us a submission for future episodes, you can tweet us at Keyframers with any animations you'd like to see made. You can also present questions or challenges to us that we'll try to answer on the air. Do be sure to share this video and demo. We'll share the links on our Twitter soon. And if you would share those, that'd be greatly appreciated. That's all for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, adios, amigos.